Finding funding is one of the most common roadblocks people run into after deciding they want to start a cannabis business. Application fees can cost thousands, and it only gets more expensive from there. You'll need to cover rent, licensing fees, your initial product order, the build out of the store or facility, and a bunch of other expenses along the way. So how are so many people doing it? Hi, I'm Dr. Sherry Boudram, CEO of CannDelta, and we've successfully launched over 350 cannabis businesses, and we cover everything you need to know about starting your own cannabis business right here on our YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at the many different ways you can fund your cannabis startup in 2024. Borrowing from a private lender. Believe it or not, you don't need to be a millionaire to start a cannabis business. There are a number of different ways you can find funding. Outside of the cannabis industry, people tend to take out business loans from banks, but this isn't an option for cannabis startups since cannabis is still a federally illegal substance. As an alternative, many people take out loans with private lenders instead. Each lender will have its own terms and conditions, but typically they'll give you a loan that you're then responsible for paying back on a monthly basis with additional interest. Typically, a lender will collect around 15% to 20% or more in interest, which is relatively high compared to a bank loan that's usually fixed somewhere between 6% and 12%. Since banks don't provide loans to cannabis businesses, private lenders have become very popular in the cannabis industry. And even though they collect more interest, the benefits outweigh the costs. They can provide money faster, and they're usually open to more flexible payment terms. There are also a number of lenders that work specifically within the cannabis industry, so they're familiar with what cannabis business owners are looking for. Some popular cannabis industry lenders include Fund Canada and Safe Harbor Financial. But if you're serious about borrowing from a private lender, make sure you do some additional research to find a lender whose terms work for you. You should try to connect with other business owners in the industry who have worked with a private lender you're thinking about borrowing from. This is a great way to get some insight into whether or not you should work with the lender or keep looking. You can also search for lenders online using social media platforms like LinkedIn. And before you sign anything, it's always a good idea to have a lawyer or financial advisor review the contracts or agreements. Making a deal with investors. If borrowing from a private lender isn't the right option for you, consider working with an investor or venture capital firm. Investors and VC firms provide money or assets in exchange for a percentage of ownership in your startup. Because of this, investors and VC firms want your business to succeed and make as much money as possible, and they'll do whatever they can to make sure that's going to happen. So not only will you gain the funding you need, you can also make valuable industry connections and gain important insights from someone with more experience in running a business. But finding the right investor takes some effort. So make sure you have a solid business plan, pitch deck, and a realistic financial projection. If working with investors or VC firms sounds like the right move for you, we recommend attending local cannabis industry networking events to make good connections and generate interest in your startup. Cannabis Insider and LICC events are a great place to start in New York since they happen almost every month and they attract industry leaders from all over. If you're near Minnesota or Ohio, CannaCon has some of the biggest events of the year. The Minnesota CannaCon also has a great after party called CannaConnect. You'll have a chance to meet all the industry key players at the after party, so it's definitely worth going. You can also contact a cannabis consulting firm like CannDelta. We have an extensive network of interested buyers and sellers waiting for the perfect investment opportunity. The funding of your cannabis business could just be one call away. Applying for grants. But if you aren't someone that's too keen on taking out a loan or working with investors, there are still other ways to get funding for your business. Applying for grants is a great way to cover some of the initial costs of starting a business. Typically, a state will have some grants available if they're introducing a legal cannabis market, or just accepting applications for new cannabis businesses. Numerous other organizations also offer grants to new or young businesses, but they're typically state-specific and often have a long application process. That being said, there are still some great grants out there, especially if you're starting a BIPOC or women-owned business. But don't forget that grants aren't a guarantee. You may need to apply for a bunch of different grants before ever getting one, and you may never end up getting one at all. It's usually best to look at grants as an initial starting point or just an extra burst of cash to improve your business later on. So if there's a deadline coming up and you haven't had any luck with grants, it might be best to consider a different funding option and come back to grants later on. Finding business partners. There's a good chance someone else is in a similar position and also wanting to start a cannabis business. You might even already know someone that could be great to work with. and also help cover expenses. See if you have any interested friends, family members, or connections that would want to get involved in some capacity. Keep in mind that working with a business partner can be challenging, so you'll always want to set terms regarding responsibilities, expectations, financial contributions, and anything else that could cause conflict. If you aren't so interested in having a partner, there could still be an opportunity to borrow money from someone in your inner circle. Partnering with a friend or family member can be less stressful than taking out a loan or working with an investor, but it can still be risky if not handled properly. You should definitely consider having a contract created to hold both parties accountable and to avoid any personal conflicts. Working with CannDelta. If you're interested in working with an investor, reach out to CannDelta. We can help you find cannabis startup funding by partnering you with investors, license holders, property owners, and full operational businesses looking to sell equity or completely divest. Our years of industry experience and large network of connections can lead you to secure a desirable deal. We currently have a variety of licenses and facilities for sale and numerous potential buyers and investors waiting for the right opportunity. If you're thinking about starting a cannabis business, call us today.